Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today,
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
today we would like to present our project, by the title English Language Education in Indonesia through the lens of traditional and contemporary educational philosophies. And this project to fulfill our assignment in the course of critical review under guidance of Mr. Dr. Uh, Ivan Ivan Iskandar. Ivan Iskandar. Yeah. SPD MHUM. Thank you. Next. Next. Okay, next. Okay. Uh, for this group is concluded by me, Yuri Britama, and Dwi Ciptaningrum and Febrianti Utami, that what we can say, courtesy to present our article today for fulfill our assignment. Next. So, inshallah, today we would like to deliver 4 points in this occasion. The first is introduction that will include introduction and method that will be presented by me. So the second, traditional and contemporary educational philosophies which are recognized in ELE in Indonesia, that will be presented by Dwi Cipta, and the next presentation that will be delivered by Febrianti Utami, according to studies of English language teaching, ELT methods, which are carried out in Indonesia in the last 10 years, and the last presentation that will be delivered by me about ELT methods, which are employed on the basis of relevant traditional and contemporary educational philosophies. Next. So, in this occasion or in this introduction, that I would like to talk about 3 points. Yeah, the first is about the research territory that depends on the context of this research, and the second is the research needs, and the third one is the occupying the needs. Next. So, according to the territory of study, this is according to 3 points. The first is the importance of English language education in Indonesia, based on Undang-Undang Republik Indonesia number 24, year 2009, in the article 29. So, in this territory or in this context, yeah, according to some researchers like Zebua, yeah, until the Nahdia Act of 2022, they talk about the history of curriculum development in Indonesia, including or especially in English language education. And the last, based on Mar Atus Soliha, Bill and Prajawati et al., that educational philosophies that are applied in English language teaching method is what we can say, important to be discussed so far for any researcher. Next. Next. Okay. So, for what we can say, for the territory of research or the context of research, of course, we have to find the gap that will be what we can say that will be the novelty for our research. Yeah, in the research needs, the first gap, yeah, according to the previous studies, that is regarding the research context, where 3 of 4 studies were conducted not in Indonesia, such as research conducted in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Uganda, and Libya. As we know, it means that researchers discuss or what we can say research or studies about educational philosophies in their country themselves is a many container, but there is a gap, little or very little, that discuss about the development of English language education in Indonesia. So the second gap is related to the philosophy of traditional and contemporary education, which is implemented in each period. And the third gap is regarding which ELT method have been used in the last 10 years. And three, they become our gap that that are interested to be discussed so far. Next. So after what we can say, after finding the research gap, we what can say we conclude to process the research question. So the research question of this article is divided into two research question. That the first research question is what traditional and contemporary educational philosophies are recognized in English language education in Indonesia. And the second research question is what studies of the ELT methods are carried out in Indonesia in the last 10 years. So the purpose or the aims of study for this article, there are two. The first one is understanding the traditional and contemporary educational philosophies that are recognized in English language education or ELE Indonesia, and identifying trends and patterns in the ELT practices, as well as areas where there may be gaps or opportunities for improvement. Next. So before we what can say carry on to the finding and discussion, yeah, for our what can say research article, we use library research that is divided to various of what can say library research. The first one we use what we can say literature review, and the second one we use systematic literature review. So two methods of what approach what can I say are mixed in this study. So after that we can what can I say we can contribute to produce the new or the novelty of research for the knowledge of English language education. So now is the opportunity to be delivered according to finding and discussion. So for the first research question or the first finding that will be presented by Dwi Cipta Ningrum. The time is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Pak Yudi. Now I'm going to continue for the next slide. It's about, okay, the English language curriculum in Indonesia. All right, we know that the educational curriculum in Indonesia change from time to time, right? And particularly, for English education subject, the differences are in terms of issues and teaching method, and then and educational philosophy. A new curriculum is marked by issues or problem can be solved. Not only that, but the government also hopes that other goals can be properly realized so the curriculum that has been designed. Which for instance here, with the establish of curriculum 2013, the government hoped that the students were not only competent in the students were not only compete in using English, but also equipped with the formation of good students' characters. Those establishing the curriculum encompassing appropriate method and materials. So they this form. English language curriculum in Indonesia also changed in terms of educational philosophies. It was based on, according to Henderson, and educational philosophy should address the following three issues. First, what is education? Second, what should education achieve? And last, how can these implicit and explicit educational goals be achieved? And there are four main educational philosophies here. All right, the first one is traditional educational philosophies. It is consists of perennialism and essentialism, and the second one is contemporary educational philosophy. Those are progressivism, and reconstructivism. All right. In practice, the implication of traditional and contemporary educational philosophy for English language education in Indonesia are related to many aspects. For instance, it could be seen in teachers and students' roles in the classroom, the method, and even the curriculum. Specifically, perennialism and essentialism are educational philosophies which use a teacher-centered approach, while the progressivism and reconstructivism are the educational philosophies which highlight students' centeredness, or you can call it by student-centered. English language education in Indonesia had already applied the traditional educational philosophies. It could be seen from the teaching process in the classroom, in which the learning process focused on the teacher. As Kunak here said, the teaching process is focused on the teachers, not to the students, since it is believed that the teachers should be an intellectual and moral role model for the students. The implication of traditional educational philosophies have given effects on the students in Indonesia in many levels, from primary to secondary and university. For instance, students cannot find vocabularies around them because it has already been found by the teacher. According to Tupas and Pandan, they said characteristic for the teachers who accept this educational philosophy is that they have the belief that they should educate every child and the focus is on the student's intellectual development and the cognitive developmental area, while the teaching process is oriented more on the content that it's being taught and not to not on the students. And then the traditional educational philosophy in English language learning is in Indonesia can also be seen from the students category, where the students were focused on being replaced replaced receiving knowledge and being passive. At that time, the learning process was teacher-centered, while students were dominant to listen or rewrite the vocabulary from the teacher in the classroom. By contrast, contemporary educational philosophies adopted in English language learning in Indonesia can be seen from some aspect. In this time, students are not only as readers, but as readers, but also they can also be writers. Students can express their mind through their writing. For instance, the students can write the description of their favorite place, for example, in making descriptive text, or they can tell their experience in the past for in making recount text. All right, the following table here, we can see that the following table the curricula which have been implemented in our country, Indonesia, until now. This one from 1952 to 2022. All right. Based on the table, starting from the curriculum of 1952 to 2004, the education philosophy is still traditional educational philosophy. And from the curriculum of 2006 to 2022, the educational philosophy is already the contemporary educational philosophy is from the issue or the goal of the curriculum. In contemporary educational philosophy, It focuses on understanding English as a foreign language, improving comprehension of language, and culture interplay. It means that the goal of English language learning in Indonesia are that the students will not only learn about English, but the students can also be involved in the learning process so that they can explore and construct the knowledge of the language. The process of learning can be called by student-centered. On the contrary, the last traditional educational philosophy only focuses on developing learners' practical language skills and intercultural competence. It means that the goals of English language learning at the time mainly focused on the students' English skills. Yet students couldn't explore and construct the language because the learning process was only handled by the teacher, or it can be conducted independently. And we can see here about curriculum of 13, 2013, and curriculum Merdeka. The change from curriculum 13 to become curriculum Merdeka can be seen from some aspect, as these two models of curriculum have some differences and similarity. The comparison between both can be seen in the basic framework, target competencies, curriculum structure, learning process, teaching tools, and curriculum tools. This change, sorry, this change, right? This change actually is the evidence of an increase in the quality of educational in Indonesia, especially in English language education. In the basic framework, there are additions to be developed of Pancasila student profile. The target competencies use the term learning achievement, or we can call it by capaian Indonesia, capaian pembelajaran, or CP in bahasa Indonesia. And in the previous curriculum structure, it was only intracurricular and extracurricular, but in the new curriculum, there are addition, namely a project to strength of Pancasila students' profile. The approach used, namely a project, the approach used during learning is different from the previous curriculum in curriculum 13 or curriculum 13, which use a scientific approach, while the curriculum Merdeka or curriculum Merdeka uses a differentiation approach. Then the assessment of curriculum 13 includes formative and summative tests, while the curriculum Merdeka forms result as a reflection to form students according to their abilities. And there is an assessment of the project of strengthening of Pancasila students profile. The teaching tools used in curriculum 13 are only textbook and non-textbook, while in the curriculum Merdeka there are addition, namely learning goal flow, or it can be called in Indonesian or bahasa Indonesia alur tujuan pembelajaran, or ATP, and a project to strengthen Pancasila student profile. The curriculum set for K13 has guidelines for curriculum implementation, assessment, and learning for each level of education. While for curriculum Merdeka, there are four here. The first one is learning and assessment guidelines. The second one is development of school operational curricula. The third one is development of project to strengthen of Pancasila student profile. And the last one is implementation of inclusive educational. sorry, I mean implementation of inclusive education. Okay, that's all from me. And the next slide will be delivered by Mbak Febrianti Utami. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Now let me continue with the next section, and this is about the studies of the ELT methods carried out in the Indonesia in the last 10 years. So first of all, we can see that when we talk about the ELT methods, then there are a variety of ELT methods, and each method will have different goals, purposes, or even roles of teachers as well as students. So each method will suit different contexts, different learners, and also different teachers. We can be familiar with some names of English language teaching methods, such as GTM, grammar translation method, direct method, audiolingual method, total physical response or TPR, suggestopedia, communicative language teaching or CLT, and then task-based language teaching or TBLT. So while grammar translation method is focusing on the ability of students to translate between the native language and the target language, the communicative language teaching or CLT focuses on the communication skills so that students will be involved in real life situation. And this is also similar to task-based language teaching, TBLT, in which students are expected to have the meaningful tasks or activities throughout the process of the language learning. And let's talk about the studies of healthy methods. So based on the studies that we conducted through the process of systematic literature review, we first of all used the keywords ELT methods in Indonesia for the last 10 years, and it yielded 44 studies. And after that, we had the process of filtering, and we used the exclusion and inclusion criteria. And then finally, we used 12 studies to be included, to be analyzed further. Okay, Okay, let me continue with the analysis of the studies of ELT or English language teaching methods in the last 10 years. Okay, so by using the online search tool applications, we use the keywords English language teaching methods in Indonesia last 10 years, and this initial process yielded 44 studies. And after that, we filtered by using exclusion and inclusion criteria because the studies should be having the OI, should be published in educational journals, should be featuring ELT methods in its abstract. So we analyze from the abstract level, and also the study should be available in full text. So as a result of this inclusion and exclusion criteria or process in the systematic literature review, 12 studies were included in order to answer the questions: what are the ELT methods that are carried out in Indonesia in the last 10 years. So from the chart, we can see that the majority of the studies investigated CLT or communicative language teaching in their studies. So we can see that CLT became the most popular ELT methods in the last decade. And after CLT, another 25% scrutinized here the GTM, grammar translation method, as the methods for English language learning. Meanwhile, the rest and the other 25% focused on the other methods, and these include CLL, community language learning, cooperative language learning, TPR, total physical response, direct method, task-based language teaching, lecture method, gender-based, and some other methods. Okay, next. Okay, then when we talk about the studies of ELT methods in secondary education, because actually 5 of the included studies pictured high schools or secondary education as the settings of the studies, and we can see and we can compare the results. The study by Sama 2016 said that there was a consistency between teaching techniques, methods, and approaches used by teachers. However, some inconsistencies also occurred. Another study by Kustati et al. 2018 focused on CLT, and the study revealed that overall teachers' attitudes towards CLT were positive. However, the implementation of the CLT was not that smooth because actually teachers still implemented the traditional teacher-centered approach due to some factors. So even though CLT was claimed to be used, but in practice, teachers still implemented the traditional teacher-centered because they, for example, have insufficient knowledge on CLT, or because of the large class size, or because of the students' low proficiency level. Okay, next, it's related to the study of ELT methods in higher education. So the next context is the higher education, and the focus is also the use of communicative approach. Communicative approach, according to Murniati and Riandari 2016, was believed to be important in teaching grammar. However, explicit grammar instruction was still imperative. We seen that the traditional approach and method are still relevant to be implemented in the communicative approach era. And then the next setting is miscellaneous settings or other settings. For example, the study by Metboki and Hambandima 2020, the study investigated some ELT methods, and the results revealed that integrating grammar translation method, contextual language teaching, and together with total physical response gave significant effect to the students, because the participants of the study were the people who wanted to work abroad as housemates in other countries where English are important for them. And another study by Ramadan et al. 2022, which scrutinized CLT also, it is revealed that CLT was a very effective method because it is based on communication skills, not only limited to knowledge. Therefore, during the learning process, students would be motivated as they felt what they learned could be useful. So that's for the analysis of the studies of ELT methods, and the next will be continued with the discussion of the ELT method studies by Mr. Yudi Wilitama. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Mbak Febri and Mbak Chita, for your presentation. So this is my occasion to deliver my presentation. So the discussion, for two findings. The first discussion is the ELT methods, which are deployed on the basis of the relevant traditional and contemporary education philosophies. In sum, there are two points or two important points that can be found and that must be discussed in this article. The first one is according to the ELT methods in Indonesia based on curriculum development. As we know, what we can say, for period to period, what could say the change of curriculum development influence ELT methods in Indonesia. So the second one is ELT methods in Indonesia for the last 10 years. Okay, so next, for the first discussion, in ELT methods in Indonesia based on curriculum development. Next, okay, next, okay. There are four mainly things that must be discussed so far. Yeah, for the finding, the first one is the development from GTM to ELM or ASW and CLT reflects a shift to active student participation and meaningful communication. And the second one about the implementation of meaning-based, competency-based, and school-based curriculum, yeah, as the basis that are implemented in Indonesia, especially in English language teaching method in Indonesia, which emphasize student-centered approach. Yeah. So GTM, on the other hand, is teacher-centered. And the last, the development of ELT curriculum and methods reflects the recognition of the importance of student involvement and the needs to adapt teaching methods. Yeah, it means the implementation of mini-based English curriculum, competency-based curriculum, and school-based curriculum further emphasizes student-centered learning by focusing on engaging topics, practical language skills, and literacy levels. It means these developments aim to enhance students' language proficiency and intercultural competence. Overall, for this discussion, the first discussion, the progression of ELT methods and curriculum development indicates a shift towards more student-centered approach that prioritize active engagement, meaningful communication, and practical language skills. This evaluation reflects the recognition of the importance of student what we can say involvement and the need to adapt teaching methods to meet the changing demands of English language learners. Next. So, ELT methods in Indonesia for the last 10 years, this discussion based on the finding of Mbak Febrianti Utami. At least there are 5 mainly important things that can be discussed in this article. Yeah, according to student-centered methods, teacher-centered methods, or other methods can exhibit elements of both student and teacher centeredness. So the categorization of the methods a student or teacher centered can vary in practice, like in primary school, primary education, secondary education, higher education, or economic education. And also the trend, yeah, what are the ultimate methods as the trend of Indonesia for the last 10 years. Yeah. For example, yeah, even if like grammar translation, so what we can say, total physical response and direct method as the what we can say, the contemporary, sorry, no, not the contemporary, the classical method, but this method are still used in Indonesia. Yeah, it means yeah, even if a classical method or our current method can be mixed or are mixed in Indonesia, especially in English language teaching in Indonesia. So based on the data from Ms. Febrianti, some method be categorized as student centers and some method can be categorized as what you say teacher center. Of course, for this we can conclude that student centers or also teacher center can be used in Indonesia during the period or during the previous period until what we can say the current period, even if yeah most method that what can say implemented in Indonesia is teacher sorry student center like that. Next. Okay, so next. Oh yeah, ELT next. Sorry. Okay. Previous. Sorry. Before. Sorry. Before. Okay. Finish. Next. Okay. Now analysis of English teaching method based on educational philosophy lens. Okay, there are four analyses. The first ELT method have undergone evaluation over the past 10 years. Yeah, influenced by various educational philosophies. Yeah. As we know, from period to period, there are what can I say? They have the goal of every period. Of course, different goal, it means different approach. Different approach, it means will be implemented in different what can I say method. Of course, many educational philosophies that are what can I say applicated or implicated in every period. So ELT methods root, yeah, in traditional philosophies emphasize a structured approach, teacher-led activities, and focus on grammar. As we know, yeah, although like grammar translation method is what we can say so classic method, but nowadays, yeah, nowadays, even if it is applicated or implicated in current what can I say current education today is student center, but most teacher in Indonesia and the most study in English language education or English language teaching, yeah, they still what can I say use, yeah, use the grammar translation method, yeah, until what can I say the study that found by Miss Febrianti Utami also in 2018, yeah, there are many studies that use GTM in a classroom activity, in English classroom activity. Yeah, so the LT method root in contemporary philosophies, yeah, like traditional philosophies that as teacher-centered. Of course, yeah, contemporary philosophies prioritize a learner-centered approach, interactive activities, and the use of language in real-life context. It means if the traditional philosophies, yeah, textually, but students, what we can say, are forced to understand about the English contextually, yeah, even if different approach, but also a different goal or different aim to each of philosophies. So the last Samiyati method can be categorized under the stream. Yeah, stream it means the schools, aliran of progressivism or pragmatism, which emphasize learning communities, collaboration, use of as physical movements, meaningful tasks, analysis of genre and communicative context, and teaching language in relevant real life context. Next. Okay. I think that's the discussion of our research article. And now the time for Ms. Chita to close our opportunity. Please, Ms. Chita.
All right, thank you, Pak Willy or Pak Yudi. That's all our presentation about our product entitled English Language Education Indonesia through the lens of traditional and contemporary educational philosophies. We hope that our product and our presentation will give benefit for you guys, for for the readers and for the listeners. Thanks for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.